AOC's last 24-inch high refresh rate IPS monitor went down an absolute treat as one of the best selling monitors on the market. So its replacement has a lot to live up to. This is the AOC 24G2SPU, and its main upgrade is a new and improved 165Hz refresh rate from its new IPS panel. But is this still the king of the hill? Is it worth your hard-earned money? Well, let's test it and find out, shall we? First, I want to talk about response times. AOC make a big point about this monitor having a 1 millisecond response time. And at this point in the video, I would like to introduce you to a new rating system, a fact checker, if you will, which rates this as, barefaced lie. Great, wonderful. Why? Well, first things first, AOC are calling the MPRT, or moving picture response time, the response time, which is purposely misleading as MPRT is not a pixel response time measurement. Video explaining that in detail in the cards above, by the way. Second, this could actually come close to being called false advertising, as the wording on their main product page expressly states, and I quote here, "A pixel response time of 1 millisecond means speed without smear, with a smear for an enhanced experience." They are explicitly stating that this monitor has a 1 millisecond pixel response time here, but that's just wrong. They do actually, or separately, claim that the panel has a 4 millisecond grey to grey response time on the spec page, which is a direct conflict to what they say on the main product page, and that is equally wrong too. Here's what the response times actually look like with Overdrive switched off. An average of 10.6 milliseconds, with some transitions taking over 17. The lowest that I recorded was 4.9 milliseconds, or almost 5 times longer than their claim. But that's with Overdrive switched off, so surely with Overdrive on its maximum setting, that'll help it out, right? Well, yes, but also no. With Overdrive on its strong setting, its maximum, that does knock the average down to around 8 milliseconds, with a single result running at the now lower 3.4 milliseconds, but that's a charitable reading. The low-end falling transitions still take upwards of 13 or 14 milliseconds, and only 37% of the transitions fit within the refresh rate window. You'll also notice a bit of an anomaly in the overshoot results. Specifically, across the board, even on the strong overdrive mode, the panel basically doesn't overshoot, except for RGB 0 to 204. That one just goes to the moon and back. I mean, just look at the graph of the raw data. It's a massive spike, running 25 RGB values too high. But here's the thing, RGB 0 to 153 basically doesn't overshoot at all. RGB 51 to 204, literally nothing. It's just that single transition that's borked. My thoughts here are that the overdrive modes haven't been tuned overly well, and a more aggressive profile or trim for that strong mode, admittedly with slightly less aggression on that 0 to 204 transition, you should net this to a much better overall experience and a better, well, set of results, if nothing else. What's most frustrating about this is that if AOC were more honest about the response times, I would actually have a lot less of an issue with this. Sure, this isn't lightning fast, but it isn't all that bad. Yes, it could definitely be better, faster, and it's not exactly your next pro esports display, but for the average gamer, especially at this kind of budget, I wouldn't feel the need to complain all that much. A look at the UFO test confirms that relatively average performance with between 3 and 4 ghosted frames on screen, depending on which overdrive mode you're in, or basically if you've turned it off or turned it to maximum. The UFO does get relatively well rendered on most frames though, so again, while it's not perfect, it's definitely good enough. Moving on to happier news though, input lag, regardless of how I measure it, is great. My time sleuth reports around 1.3 milliseconds of on-display latency, and Nvidia's LDAA reports a respectable and consistent around 18 milliseconds, which is in the sort of upper, the better tier of results that I've had. What's also decent is the gaming experience itself, actually playing on a thing. The 165Hz refresh rate is definitely a nice touch, and while the panel isn't the absolute fastest, which did make me feel, did make it a little more difficult for me to feel confident, clicking on those heads, not that I generally can anyway, it's fast enough for you to have a decent time in most genres of games. Something like a racing game plays rather well here, even if trying to drive with a keyboard is like slamming your head into a brick wall repeatedly. I also rather like how vibrant the colours look here, and for good reason. The panel covers around 91% of the DCI-P3 spectrum, a great result for this class for sure, and to top it off, AOC actually significantly underreports the panel's brightness. They list it at 300 nits, but I recorded it a little shy of 500. That is a significant improvement, and for brighter environments, that is enough, or that can make a big difference in usability. It's not quite bright enough for any level of genuine HDR support, despite the HDR modes in the on-screen display, but it's still decent enough, and especially for SDR, content looks very nice to the eye. What's also impressive is the color accuracy, as my Spider X reports an average delta E of just under 1. Which is excellent and makes this a great choice for anyone who wants to do a bit of gaming and content creation on the side. It's worth noting that this monitor has a healthy amount of adjustment from its stand, anything from height adjust to tilt, swivel, and you can even rotate it to put it in portrait mode if you'd prefer, and I'm happy to report that the viewing angles are good enough that you can actually do that without too much difficulty. You've also got decent I/O as well, with a 4-port USB 3 hub. The yellow port is a charging port, by the way, alongside 2 HDMI 1.4 ports, a DisplayPort 1.2 port, and even a VGA port if you want to hook up something from literally over a decade or more ago now. Oh, and also audio in and out too. The on-screen menu is controlled by the downward-facing separated buttons on the right side. I would prefer a joystick-style switch on the back, but this is fine, especially considering there really aren't all that many options that I can imagine you want to tinker with beyond the initial setup, so yeah, it's not too big of a deal. All in all, the 24G2SPU is a decent option. The response times, and especially the irresponsible marketing, definitely let it down a little, but for the price, I would find it hard to argue, at least with the monitor and the product itself. It isn't perfect for sure, but as far as a minor refresh with a swap to 165Hz panel goes, this definitely isn't a bad option. The only final catch to mention is that while stocks last, the original 24G2U is currently £160 on Amazon, whereas this SPU model is selling for £200. And if it were my money, I'd put it on the OG one, at least for the time being. Once the stock of those ones dries up, then sure, the SPU is an equally good choice and a pretty decent monitor, especially, again, for that price tag. With that said, those are my thoughts, but I would love to hear yours in the comments down below. What do you think of the SPU model? Is it a worthy sort of refresh and upgrade? Is it worth the extra, I guess, £40, or is it something that you'd still buy the original? Also, is it going to be your next monitor, or maybe stick with a standard GTU, or would you rather something maybe a bit higher resolution instead? Also, I would love to hear your thoughts on the whole 1 millisecond response time stuff as well. Definitely let me know in the comments down below. If you want to check out this SPU model or the original, just standard 24G2U, I'm going to leave global Amazon affiliate links in the description that you can check out, and that will take you to your local Amazon store where you can see pricing when we watch this, because I'm quoting UK pricing at the time of filming, but it can and will change, and sort of stock varies, so feel free to take a look. Otherwise, if you want to see more videos from me, more reviews, all that sort of stuff, then do hit that subscribe button and turn on the bell notification icon. You can also check out some more videos on the end cards. If you want to check out maybe some more monitor reviews, I'll leave that playlist for you there. And that's kind of it. If you want to support the channel, you can do so in a load of different ways, through YouTube itself and become a YouTube member with a join button down there and get some cool rewards for doing so, or Patreon instead if you'd rather. You can also pick up a hoodie or a t-shirt like this one, or a load of other designs I made myself. There's also some affiliate links in the description to places like Overclockers UK if you're buying from there instead, and otherwise I'll leave it there. Thanks for watching, hope you enjoyed it, we'll see you on the next video.